The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 420 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
You know, we kind of start there and we just move forward year by year, and it basically chronicles Return of the Jedi, you know, from inception all the way to the 40th anniversary.
So the fact that you have these in the book, that speaks volumes.
And I was also excited to see that on my first birthday, that is when Alec Guinness was recording his scenes in Return of the Jedi. I was like, oh, look, how cool is that?
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
Like I said before, you know, there seems to be room for all of us to do these things in the Star Wars world, and that's what I love about it.
It was just so much fun making it, and I just hope people really enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, 420. I get it.
Oh, Sarah knows about Cheech and Chong.
Are you ready?
Welcome to Neverland.
Here we go!
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets lab.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! Star Wars month continues, and we are having a non-stop party. We have so much to share. But first, we want to welcome you back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife Sarah, who's got a new man in her life, and his name is Timothy Zahn.
More about that later.
Mm-hmm. First it was Anakin I had to compete with, and now it's the man who brought back Star Wars.
All right, well, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fandom. So imagine a big Wookiee hug and a little sprinkle of pixie dust for our family of Skywalkers. And that's to help get you through the week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, coming up on this episode, we will be speaking with Justin Berger and Jamie Benning, the authors of the new Return of the Jedi Unauthorized Timeline, coming out June 1st. You may have seen the release date of May 25th for their book, but they had to move it back a week just to make sure it got that much better.
Now, we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to a Disney park around the world or on the Galactic Starcruiser while you can.
Oh, snap!
Best of all, this service is free of charge. So head over there to smallworldvacations.com for a no-obligation price quote and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you. We are recording this from Long Beach, California on May the 23rd of 2023.
Richard, what happened today in Star Wars history?
Well, I'm so happy you asked that because 36 years ago today, May the 23rd, 1987, the first official Star Wars convention is held in Los Angeles, California. Oh, this is where my whole life led up to, and it was the first official Star Wars convention. Star Wars everywhere. Now, get this. The convention is called, are you ready for this? Starlog Salutes Star Wars, a 10th anniversary tribute to George Lucas and the galaxy far, far away. Hold on, I'm not done. Which he created.
And if you saw our short today, our YouTube short, then you would see that whole listing in the program.
How do you fit that on a marquee?
I know. Oh,
That's
it's
why,
so funny.
That's why we call it Celebration Zero.
Yes.
This was an awesome time, an awesome convention. I skipped my graduation to be there, and when I got back, the principal asked me, "Where were you?" Disneyland. I was at Disneyland during my graduation.
That sounds like the
and
same.
I haven't looked back, huh?
Yeah, no, remember when I graduated from college for the second time with you, our graduation was also June 15th, I want to say, in 2012. Well, that was the opening of Cars Land and the new Buena Vista Street. So guess where I was instead of my graduation?
At
Disneyland. DCA,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and they had made it a point to say, everyone, this is what the whole 4 years have been leading up to. You cannot miss graduation. Yeah, I'll be in Anaheim. Don't look for me there. Because not only was I at Disneyland that week, I was at the Star Wars convention, Celebration Zero. My very first time talking to George Lucas. Oh, I was so nervous.
I bet.
Because they were calling out people in the audience and this big Q&A, and they looked right at me and pointed, and George Lucas looked at me, and I just turned, my whole demeanor just sunk, because Lucas is looking right at me. He's giving me his full attention. But if you listen to the audio, we'll play the clip in a second, I don't sound like I'm nervous.
No, you don't.
No, I was in high school, graduating high school. I was all about the film classes and TV classes. I just got accepted to Emerson College, going into film school. So I asked him this.
Does or will Lucasfilm ever have internships for young filmmakers?
We're a very small company. And from time to time we have hired people, not as young filmmakers, but in various work capacities. And those people have gone on to, rise through the company. So we do that, but it's on a very limited scale because it's not a very big company.
What Lucas said, I just saw his mouth move, and it's like, okay, thank you. He could have said, dude, shut up, okay? Stop asking me questions. And
you would have said,
okay, thank you.
you.
This was also the first time I got a chance to meet Anthony Daniels and Billy D. Williams, Gary Kurtz, those people that I never, ever thought I would get a chance to meet. And we're now all in the same room. And not only that, I was in the same room with future friends.
Aww.
Because as we keep talking about Celebration Zero, friends say, yeah, I was there, or I was there, and I was there. Dan Madsen was right there. He took that infamous photo of George Lucas shaking Gene Roddenberry's hand. You see everywhere. That was Dan Madsen. He was right there. Chris Alexander, author of Star Wars Origami, our good friend. Alan Sanborn, who's been on the show many times. And so many people in the comments for our videos all say, yes, I was there. Thank you for posting this. This is where me and my dad had a great time. And he's passed, but luckily I get a chance to see these videos now. So thank you very, very much. And not only do we have the George Lucas Q&A and on our YouTube channel, but that awesome pre-show with Darth Vader. Who knew Darth Vader had a sense of humor? He was really funny. R2 and 3PO had a little pre-show. Just amazing. An amazing, amazing time. And all the videos are right there. I'm so glad that that video camera just attached to my shoulder pretty much throughout the 80s.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So that is what happened 36 years ago.
Wow.
All right, with that, let's move on to
things we want to share.
Things we want to share. Things we want to share. Things we want to share.
It has been a tough week for Star Wars fans. Yesterday, it was reported that Ray Stevenson had passed away on Sunday, May the 21st. This was a shocker. I could not believe this was the headline I was reading everywhere. Mm-hmm. Now, many Star Wars fans know him as the voice of Gar Saxxon on Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars. And most recently, we all cheered for him and his enthusiasm at Star Wars Celebration Europe when he was promoting AHSOKA.
Yeah, because he's going to be playing a Jedi named Baylan Skoll in AHSOKA, and he turns to the dark side as an ally to Grand Admiral Thrawn. And he's had such a filmography. He's been part of many Marvel shows and films. In 2008, he played Frank Castle in Punisher Warzone. And if you remember, in the first 3 Thor films, he was one of those guys who traveled with Thor himself, the Asgardian hero Volstagg. He had the big red beard, red hair, red beard. and he was struck down by Hela in Thor Ragnarok.
So he's one of the many who've gone over to the Marvel side and the Star Wars side, and his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Julie Gildersleeve is saying in the Sky Chat, we just saw him at Star Wars Celebration Europe.
Yeah.
That's what the big shocker is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was just hale, healthy.
He was just so enthusiastic, and I look forward to seeing so much from him because he was one of those happy Star Wars actors, and you gotta love that, and it's starting to balance out and even tilt the seesaw of those of the original generation who treat it like a job,
right?
Whereas the new generation from the prequels forward, they treat this as a responsibility, being an ambassador for fandom, and he was just that. In addition to Ahsoka, his posthumous credits also will include the films 1242 Gateway to the West and Casino in Aishia.
Right.
And I'm sure I'm pronouncing all that wrong.
And I believe the Casino in Aishia is what he was filming when he passed away.
Yeah, and I've been looking, and I haven't seen any causes of death yet.
So I read an article, I can't say where from, but the very first article I read mentioned that he was on this island off of Italy or Spain filming for the Casino in Aishia, and he contracted some kind of illness, and then he was like rushed to a hospital like the next day, and it overtook him. But that's what I read, and now I couldn't tell you where I read that. But
on BBC.com, it says here, no cause of death has been revealed, but he was reportedly hospitalized during filming on the Italian island Ischia.
Yeah, that's basically what I heard. But I heard there was like one other line that I read that he contracted some kind of illness. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all I know.
Okay. And worst of all, really, he was days away from turning 59 years old. On May the 25th, he would have turned 59. Days away. Oh, how sad is that? That's
Our hearts go out to his family and friends.
and
Definitely.
his fans.
Yeah.
So a moment of silence for Ray Stevenson. Well, Star Wars fandom hit another blow. This week, the official word went out that the Galactic Starcruiser will be permanently closing this coming September, only a year and a half after it opened. And we are so grateful that we were given the opportunity to board the Halcyon for its media blitz last February, and I got me one of these little Halcyon models with lights.
Yeah.
Lights.
It also it has lights like where your rooms are.
Yeah, this was a great time, and I've tried asking those within Lucasfilm what's any word we can share, but
there wasn't really.
It is what it is, and you know what? Let's talk about the happy Galactic Starcruiser moment. Sarah, what was one of your favorite memories from the Galactic Starcruiser?
Well, it was very exciting. We weren't really sure what to expect, but when you're brought on board, you go into this main atrium, and then you get a Galactic Starcruiser representative to come over, and they personally escort you to your cabin. And so we were escorted. It wasn't very far away at all. It wasn't a very short walk, and they lead us to the door. And then I remember pulling on the door handle. Oh, it's not opening. What do we do? They're like, try again. And I was like, oh, wait. And we pulled it to the side, like Star Wars doors open. And it goes like it opens like a Star Wars door into the wall, and we freaked out. And I was like jumping up and down, and that was a really fun moment.
It still had that new Galactic Starcruiser smell too.
Very much so.
And that first tour we went on, the tour guide took us around the ship and gave us the little fun history moments of the Anzellan operator, owner of the Galactic Starcruiser. His name is Shug, little tiny Babu Frick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is on our YouTube channel as well. This whole tour of the Galactic Starcruiser and the little fun details that went into the story of the Galactic Starcruiser.
Yeah.
After a year, they spent a year developing this, all their characters and the storylines. It's a shame that that it's just not continuing. One of my favorite memories is just I was looking for you. You had to use the restroom. So whenever Sarah has to use the restroom, things happen. If you're at a restaurant and Sarah's going to use the restroom, that's when your food comes.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at the movies, Sarah go to the restroom, and the movie will start early just because Sarah left. But here, as soon as you left, I was grabbed by Ray and Chewbacca to go on this little side mission. It's like, oh, okay, can you leave a mouse droid or something to tell Sarah where we are afterwards?
Luckily, it's a pretty small ship, so I found you guys right away, but yeah.
So there are so many shows within a show. Just when you think you're following one adventure, a side adventure comes.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, another side adventure comes. We went into that fun engineering room. Oh, talk about red buttons. Red buttons everywhere.
Everywhere. And then because we're short, all us girls are short, we found that little hatchway that led into the prison
cell, yeah.
Yeah. So we like crawled. It's like kids are supposed to find it and crawl, but we did.
And then way up in the corner was an Easter egg. It said HS plus LO, Han Solo plus Leia Organa. We didn't know that, but on the plane trip home, we sat next to one of the Imagineers, and he said, "Yeah, look for it there."
Yeah, so we told our friend, Mike Celestino, and he was on the Starcruiser a couple weeks later and found the Easter egg. Yeah.
And come on, we got to mention Gaia.
She is amazing, and luckily now we can finally listen to Gaia's set list on Apple Music or any of the streaming services. But yeah, the Gaia dinner show was just incredible. Like, it's something you can't really translate to marketing. You just have to like be in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And
or watch our videos, because we do good. I think we did a pretty good job capturing that moment, because as Gaia is performing, the First Order has got to bump in there and ruin things.
Yeah, but then Gaia and her other sidekick, they try to get Lieutenant Croy, First Order Lieutenant Croy, to
Uwani?
dance.
The Rodian?
Not Uwani, the other minstrel guy.
Okay.
Yeah, they try to get Lieutenant Croy to dance, and I was like right front and center when they were trying to do that, and got this amazing shot.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to the playlist, go to Spotify, iTunes,
anywhere, any streaming service.
My goodness, this is a great soundtrack for the Galactic Starcruiser.
It is.
Now you gotta just know that they're not going to end this here. They're going to harvest the Galactic Starcruiser, because you're not going to throw away all these pieces.
Well, and they even said that, they mentioned that in Disney's like response about what's going to happen. They mentioned that we're going to learn from this experience and move forward.
Like, we've been hearing whispers that they're adding a new restaurant at Galaxy's Edge. So this is going to be part of that. It's got to be.
We hope so, yeah.
I think it's got to be part of that new dining experience. And plus, Uwani, she's the Rodian musician, plays this instrument. I'm not sure what it's called, but she plays this thing. And the Rodian, the mask, it comes alive because the little snout moves. And to have that, they have that kind of animatronic in a walk-around mask. You're not going to waste that. That's too good. And whoever those actresses in those suits were, they played it up big time.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, those little missions, they're going to add those into Galaxy's Edge. They've been saying for so long, we're going to have little side missions when you go to Galaxy's Edge. Now, finally, they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the characters, Lena Mock, Sammy.
Oh, Sammy.
Oh.
Yeah.
And even that new lightsaber.
Yeah.
The one that you press the button and it really extends, that Ray fought with. Well, Ray used and then discarded to get another lightsaber and fought Kylo Ren.
Shh. Okay. But yes.
Yeah, so go on with that.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to share some comments here from the Sky Chat. So Julie mentions that at least we can live the Halcyon life vicariously through Leia and Han's honeymoon. Yes, that is a fun book. It's The Princess and the Scoundrel. It's all laid out right there. Welcome, Dawn. He is planning an emergency trip to the Starcruiser.
Oh, really?
Amazing. Let us know if you're able to board. That is super exciting. All right.
Yeah, and you got to hit the Crown of Corellia dining room.
Oh,
That's where they have the blue milk. And
yes.
guess what? All you can drink.
All you can drink. Well, we did put up the announcement of the Galactic Starcruiser closing on our Facebook page, and we got a lot of responses. Now, the majority of you did leave comments saying that it was too expensive to go. And
yes, we know.
We totally get it. We totally get it. I mean, yeah, we get it. But we're going to share some other comments that we got. One from Jeremy Stevenson says, "Oh, well, I guess I'll head over to the Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube page to watch and like, if I haven't already, all of the spoiler-filled videos of the experience that I have been avoiding. Of course, then I'm probably be that much more bummed about what I'm missing out on. Oh, well, glutton for punishment, that's me." Nice.
All right, Michael M. Key says, "Being part of the launch crew and opening team, I have mixed feelings about this news."
Yeah. I asked him what his feelings were, but he did not share.
No, but
yeah, right
when
now.
we see him over at Walt Disney World, we'll have to corner him and say, "All right, talk."
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, Win Patterson, he says, "Walt Disney tried many things that failed." You know what? That's a good point right there. You can't succeed unless you try. While an innovative idea, this one had too high a personal cost.
A personnel cost.
A personnel cost.
Yeah.
Yes, and a personal cost, I would imagine, to allow a sustainable general consumer price point. I am sure there was a fair bit of market research that indicated it would work. Yeah, Star Wars fans, it's right there. If they had waited for a greater number of Star Wars fans to age into a higher income tax bracket, they may have pulled it off.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, especially setting it in this, sequel timeline.
Yeah.
A lot of those fans haven't aged up enough to have the kind of income to allow them to go.
But they had the script already in the Star Wars comics, because in the Star Wars comics they jumped around the timeline. You went back to the original trilogy, the prequels, back to the sequels. Could you imagine if Crimson Jack, who is a part of the comics, Crimson Jack was a big adversary of Han Solo in the classic Marvel Star Wars comics? Could you imagine if there was a Crimson Jack walking around the Galactic Starcruiser? Now, if you remember back in 2016, I cosplayed as Crimson Jack for the Run Disney race over
I do remember that
at Walt Disney World.
I made your outfit.
Oh my! And I had this big bushy felt beard and wig, and they told me I couldn't wear it because it was hiding my face.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine that if they had Crimson Jack walking around the Galactic Starcruiser? I'm sweating just thinking about this. Oh my goodness! All right, Sal Perellis says, "Legitimately sad. So glad we were lucky enough to experience it." All right, let's wrap it up here with Acacia Veltri. And she says, "One of the best things we have ever done, bummed it's closing." I'm bummed, and I'm sure they have a reason why they didn't do like a day thing of it. Maybe have like a 3 or 4 hour side trip from Galaxy's Edge. Even if they charged like what, $200 per person?
Yeah.
For all the food and the blue milk and the adventure? $2,000 is a whole lot better than $5,000, don't you say?
200, yeah.
$200, yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they thought this all through, and I'm sure there's a reason. And it's Disney, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they tried everything and it just wasn't cost effective.
Right.
Just like the old Disney Infinity video game. Everyone loved it, but it just wasn't cost effective, and they're a business.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's true.
Sorry, fans. They're a business. They've got to do what makes money because they've got to sustain Disney Plus. We want to see more Star Wars shows. So you can get Galactic Starcruiser or have more Star Wars and Marvel and original shows on Disney Plus. It's all a balance. And I think Bob Iger's he's making a lot of very hard decisions.
Right. And yeah, again, bottom line, business. That's just how it works. Yeah, Disney Infinity was so heartbreaking too.
I know.
The community that started. It's the same thing. Galactic Starcruiser has created a community, has made friends. Like, yeah. But let's wrap up things we want to share on a high note.
Okay, good, because I can't take any more.
I know, because we want to talk about Comic-Con Revolution, which was just happened last weekend in Ontario, California. And speaking of the Galactic Starcruiser, we met a couple there who had gone to the Galactic Starcruiser, and we were commiserating over the recent news, but also sharing our experiences. And I think that will be lifelong for those of us who've been able to go. That's some memories that we've made that are just, they're indelible.
And Julie Gildersleeve, who's in the Sky Chat right now, got a chance to meet up with her and her husband. Great seeing you. This was a really fun convention. We've been doing a lot building up to this, but we gotta say we sold more books at this con than any other, and we had a blast meeting new Skywalkers, past Skywalkers. We told people if you subscribe to our YouTube and Instagram, they get one of these.
Yeah.
One of these new buttons of Grogu wearing a Skywalking shirt and wearing a Mickey ear hat with a Captain Marvel insignia on it.
So cute, and many people subscribe. We went up, yay! So that was exciting. And we had a panel. We did our Star Wars Trivia Challenge Strikes Back, which is basically where we marry our work life, which is our kids' party entertainment, with our Star Wars life, and create this amazing, fun, interactive panel, Star Wars trivia. And Richard, you ran it. And we both
yes.
did.
There's no way you can do this as one person.
No.
Because you forget about the whole scoring.
Yeah.
And people say, hey, who's winning? I don't know. I haven't kept score since the first round.
But you were a great MC. Everyone thought you were hilarious, which you are.
Oh, thank you.
And it was really, really fun. And everyone played, and people who did play got little raffle tickets, and then we gave away some prizes. Chris Sequel from the Star Wars Underworld, he's starting up a production company, so he and his team were there to record it. So when we get that footage, we'll be posting that on our YouTube channel for everyone to see. So it was professionally videoed.
Hopefully we can do the same trivia challenge at San Diego Comic-Con coming right up. This is... Oh, hold on. Oh, Sarah's got a phone call. Maybe it's from San Diego Comic-Con.
Is this the refrigerator?
Uh-huh. Her... She answered the phone and asked if this is a refrigerator calling.
Refrigerator? No. We're expecting,
no, it was
we're
the
expecting
toaster.
a person to come, so I just,
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so we plan to do more of these at upcoming conventions. Do you know who we have working on future conventions, seeking them out right now? Our bounty hunter, Shamim Dana. He's on it right now. He's looking at future conventions for us to appear in. Since WesterCon has been canceled this summer.
Yes, so we need some more.
Yeah, so it was a great time, and once again, the books were flying off of our table. We sold so many, and to those, if anyone is listening that bought one this weekend, thank you so very much. It's always so gratifying to see something that you spent so much time on being sold and other people enjoying it.
Yeah. It's also a nice rush, like when someone who doesn't know who you are or who this book is, and you kind of explain what it is, and they're like, oh, well, I'll take both copies, both parts, so that's exciting. Now, Richard, at the top of the show, you mentioned Timothy Zahn.
Yes. The new man in your life.
Yes. So we have to tell this story. So I follow Timothy Zahn on Facebook. That's where he is. And randomly, I'll see him post pictures of conventions that he's at or that he's going to be at. And they're never where I am. Like they're like always mid-country or they're just not places I am. So the night before Comic-Con Revolution, I saw a post from Timothy Zahn that he was going to be at Comic-Con Revolution. He was going to be at the convention I was attending. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And
well, not only is he going to be there, he's going to be in the same room.
Yes, he was in the artist alley. Yeah. And so it was very exciting. And so on Sunday, I thought ahead enough to bring, Richard's copy of Heir to the Empire, because I don't have an original copy of Heir to the Empire because I was a kid. I found this book at my local library and I rented it out. What do you call it when you rent? Not rent.
you took the book out.
Yeah, I got it out
of
my library. And yes, and so I got that. And then this is like my favorite figure from Galaxy's Edge, speaking of Star Wars and Disney parks. But my favorite figure is this Thrawn figure. It's the wooden figure from Toydarian Toymakers, and it's Thrawn. It's just so funny. And so I wanted to get both of these signed. And so I don't know what it is. Like, other celebrities, I've been around a lot of celebrities. Like, we go to these press events. We've seen Emma Watson. We've seen all these celebrities that we see
Pretty
and we
much
talk
all the
to.
Avengers.
All the Avengers.
The cast of the Star Wars sequels.
All the voice actors to the Star Wars
Yep.
series and everything. Like, we've seen them in person, talked with them, and I'm cool. I'm with it. I'm whatever. Timothy Zahn, I got like all tongue-tied. I didn't really know what to say. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And unlike some people who freeze up, I like just kind of like, blah, talked a bunch. I was like, I did this and I got your book at my library and man, I was 10 and I did. And I think I get tongue-tied when it's something that has like formed who I am as a person.
Well, plus you get all these thoughts in your head.
Yeah.
And you want to just throw them all out.
Yeah. And he's the nicest guy. Like, he was so chill.
As Don Glover here says in the Sky chat, it's called
Word vomit. Yeah, that's totally what I was doing. And he was just so nice and so chill. On Sunday, I was the very first person in line waiting for him. And it was funny because he was getting his table ready. He had come in getting his table ready, and I'm like, oh. And then he just turns around. He doesn't go behind the table. He just turns around and says, hi, can I help you? And I was like, blah, 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 blah. So it was funny. So
Sarah was telling him her social security number, PIN numbers.
So here's the Thrawn figure, and he signed it, and his signature is only $10, and then he doesn't charge for signing books, even if you don't buy them there. So this is Richard's copy, but I had him sign the cover, and then he did sign it. I'll show you it to me. Yay! So that was very exciting for Sarah. Timothy Zahn, and he dates it. So
yeah, and Sarah had texted me because I was on the other side of the room setting up our dealer table, and she was saying, "Yeah, I'm almost up to the front of the line," and I said, "Okay, I'll be there in a second." I turn around and I see you because there was a direct aisle from our table to his table.
Yeah.
And I saw you going up to his table, so I just ran down the aisle with my cell phone recording so I could get every bit of it. So we gotta post that.
We gotta share some of the video because I also took out my phone because you had texted me and he was like, "Oh, do you wanna take a picture while I'm signing?" I'm like, yes." And so like I sent you something incomprehensible and I started videoing. But yeah, so Julie, I love talking to him about Thrawn's motivation. And she just talked and talked to him. Yeah. And that was another fun thing about this convention is because he was one of the main people there. We saw Star Wars fans that were dressed as Mara Jade, as Chiss, as Mara Jade, as Thrawn. So you could tell the people who were like very excited and getting autographs from Timothy Zahn, and we all talked and commiserated over it.
If you're going to a convention all in blue makeup, that shows your level of dedication.
Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And Mara Jade, too.
Yeah, Mara Jade. Remember, she came to our panel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of them did.
Yeah.
You know what? I've forgotten that he created Mara Jade.
Yeah.
And we asked him, Sarah, you said, so do you do podcast interviews? And he just shook his head. No, not anymore.
He said so much because he felt he said a lot. But Timothy Zahn, if you're listening, we would love to have you on, not to talk about your books, but honestly to get your opinion
on our books,
on Star Wars storytelling. So maybe like the Ahsoka series or the Mandalorian where Thrawn is involved. Or even just talk about Star Wars Rebels too, with Thrawn and Rook, and wow, I think that would be neat.
Me and Tim, we're Facebook buddies.
Oh,
so because I had asked him some things about his books for today's Star Wars history. So I'll ask him, hey, what are you doing later on after Ahsoka? You know what? Let's chat. So
I think that would be fun.
One of the most approachable, nicest men, not just in fandom, in life.
Yeah. And when I posted pictures on my Facebook, a lot of you have met him and have some really nice stories. So he's just a class act, just a great guy.
So Tim, I call him Tim. Go to our Facebook group and look at Sarah's post. You'll see so many amazing comments people have left about you and your kindness. All right, Sarah, with that, let's celebrate the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi with Justin Berger and Jamie Benning.
Our Star Wars Month celebration continues with highlighting the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi.
Here with us now are the authors of the brand new book, Return of the Jedi, The Unauthorized Timeline, which is being released on June the 1st, Justin Berger and Jamie Benning. Hey, Justin!
What's up, guys?
We are so excited to speak with you. Many Skywalkers know who you are, Justin, because you're one of the original editors on Today in Star Wars History. And now, like we were just saying beforehand, this is the first time we've ever spoken face-to-face, computer to computer.
Yes. I know, it happens a lot. Jamie and I had the same thing happen where we didn't even start really interfacing until we started doing podcasts.
Oh, perfect. That's the way it is.
It was all text and emails and WhatsApp.
Well, now let's bring on Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having us. It's good to be here. Podcast I've listened to many times, so I'm pleased to be a part of an episode.
Oh, well, thank you both for coming on the show. We're glad you're podcast listeners as well. But let's kick things off by you guys telling us about yourselves and your Star Wars fandom. So, Justin, let's start with you.
Well, I have been a Star Wars fan basically my entire life, like most people. I was born in 75, so Star Wars has always been a part of my life. And I would say this, but one of my first memories as a child is literally seeing the Star Wars trailer on TV and just being enamored with it and just it blowing my mind at, I don't even know how old I was. I was probably like 4 or 5 or something. And after that, my parents would buy me toys and everything. And then the first movie I saw, because the other movies hadn't come out on VHS, not to where I had seen them, but the first movie was really Return of the Jedi theatrically in 83, and it blew my mind. Lots of mind blowing from Star Wars. And then after that, the VHS tapes came out in 84, and all bets were off. It was just, the trilogy was a part of my DNA from that point forward. And, from there, it just, ebbed and flowed as life happens. And then when The Force Awakens was coming out, it kind of reignited that passion for Star Wars. And I started collecting a bunch of vintage toys and stuff that I had as a kid and some that I always wanted, like the AT-AT. And I was like, I'm an adult. I can buy whatever I want. And I bought an AT-AT and I was so happy. Now I have 3 of them. And it just kind of escalated from there. And I went on Facebook, joined groups, talked with other like-minded fans. And then that's kind of where my book, The Empire Strikes Back timeline came from, was just seeing all these dates everywhere that people were posting about the movie. And I was just like, nobody's really compiled. I mean, you've got the Rinsler book, and then you've got, other behind the scenes stuff. But I in my mind, I just envisioned like this just timeline of just like, date, all this info. And really kind of a reference guide is how I had it in my head. And then I started compiling dates and talking to people, and it just kind of was born out of my passion for Star Wars. And it was just a complete, it was a not love letter to Star Wars, but it was just a passion project, really. And then after that, because of that book, Jamie saw that I had done that, contacted me as Jedi's 40th was coming up a year ago. And he was like, "Are you keen on doing a Return of the Jedi book?" And I was just like, "Well, it was a lot of work. I'm not sure." And then he wanted to partner with me on it. And then, he was a huge Star Wars fan, and we kind of were we're the same age, and we kind of had the same upbringing, and we both
Justin's
loved
older
behind
than me. Justin is older than me.
1 year. And yeah,
Still
you're
counts.
the youngin. Anyways, so then Jamie had reached out to me, and we both love behind the scenes stuff. So it was like we were kind of cut from the same cloth. And I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity, and then I can have somebody else carry the load as well, because it's a lot of work, as you know, Richard and Sarah. It's a lot of work writing a book, and so it was nice to have a writing partner and somebody to kind of help me collate everything. But we decided, let's do this. That was about a year ago, and here we are, almost a year later. Book's coming out next week, and we're super excited. So that's kind of a nutshell my Star Wars story, I guess you could say.
I gotta say, Justin, when I first saw your book, The Empire Strikes Back, Unauthorized Timeline, I was very angry with you. I don't know
Why?
who this Justin Berger is, but he's taking my idea.
Oh, is that
Then
your
I
idea?
realized, wait a minute, he's just focusing on Empire. I thought, is he going to do Today in the Empire Strikes Back history? Arg!
Oh, no. That's funny.
Just to let you know, I've gotten over my anger about 5 minutes ago.
Well, Jamie did the thing I wanted to do, which was take Empire Strikes Back and play the movie and do behind the scenes as the movie progresses, because I had that same idea, and then I saw his, and I was like, well, now I don't have to do it, because he did a way better job than I would have done.
No, I don't want to say the Star Wars fan base is based on anger, because it's playful, competitive anger.
Anger, fear, suffering.
Yeah, all of that. Don't go on social media today or yesterday. It's a mess. But now, Jamie, tell us about your fandom and your documentary series and your podcast.
And how it's based on fear and anger.
So much fear. My fandom, I started in loving Star Wars as early as I can remember. I mean, I was born in 1976, so by the time I was 1, it was everywhere. I had the bedspread, the curtains, the toys, the books, and everything I could get hold of. I remember I have a very slight memory of seeing The Empire Strikes Back in the theatre. But the big moment for me was seeing Return of the Jedi in 1983, and I was 7 years old. It was my birthday. I got taken to London to see it in 70mm, which was quite an exciting trip for us. We lived sort of southeast England, and we took the train into London and the tube, and we arrived at this big marquee in the front that was all kind of lit up and animated, and there were still photos in the lobby, I remember. And I sat there with my cousins and my sister and my mum and dad, and just had an absolute blast watching this movie. And from that moment on, I was kind of obsessed. Star Wars had always been there, but that was what really kind of kicked it in for me. I think I was just at the right age to see Return of the Jedi. I knew the characters beforehand from the other 2 movies, but this is the one that really sparked it. And when we came out, I was allowed to buy a book in the foyer, my parents said, and I chose the red magazine book of the story with the photos. There's the famous photo of Luke hanging from the grate below Jabba the Hutt's throne that wasn't in the movie, which I stared at for weeks going, what is this? My sister bought
Did I blink and miss this moment?
Yeah, exactly. And my sister bought the making of book that was like the official magazine, it was called, a white covered one. And it had names like Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren and Ken Ralston and, Michael Pangrazio and Chris Evans. And I was kind of completely enamored then with not only the films and the world created, but how that world was created. And I then became obsessed with the behind the scenes documentaries. Later on, in the 2000s, it was in the 90s, a friend of mine and I were talking about Star Wars, and he said, I've still got all my toys. And I said, oh, come on, let's get them down from your attic and check them out. And just at that time, as we did that, we went to a comic shop, and there was a copy of Stephen Sansweet's From Concept to Screen to Collectible, the famous gold and black Vader-fronted book. And we thought, wow, mine's just out of reach here.
It's like right over there.
Yeah, and it really, I was looking at that, that page that had the last 17 on it, where it had all of the figures there. I thought, wow, I didn't know there was a Luke, stormtrooper, and I didn't know there was a yak face and all these things. So we were kind of excited by that prospect, and we went around all the boot fairs, as we call them here, thrift stores and places like that, picking up all of these toys, which people were just throwing out at this time. So interest was sparked then. And then in the 2000s, I decided I wanted to learn to edit. So I decided to embark on this project of creating these filmumentaries, which, as Justin said, are like, you watch the movie, but you put all of the all of the behind the scenes material that you can find, video, photos, audio commentary, and I put them on YouTube. And I think they got, before I took them off YouTube, I think they got about 4.5 million views. Like, they really seemed to hit home, and they were on the front page of just about every website for a few weeks.
Well, can fans still see those? I want to see those.
Yeah, they're available on Vimeo.com. So if you go to, it's easy actually, if you go to Google and you search for Building Empire and my name, Jamie Benning, Returning to Jedi, and Star Wars Begins. There's also one on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and there's one on Jaws as well, called Inside Jaws. Once I'd done those, I kind of was courted by a few studios for a while. Those projects didn't work out, so I ended up just doing my own little shorter documentaries where I'd interview, do a single interview, like I did Robert Watt's interview and made a 30-minute little mini documentary about his career. And then when lockdown happened, I lost all my work, and whenever there's been a time in my life where there's a bit of a crisis or some difficulty, I find myself going right back to Star Wars. So I created a podcast, but not a Star Wars podcast. It's a podcast about film history, but I would say Star Wars is kind of like the gateway into a lot of those conversations, because it's people that either worked on those films or inspired by those films, or, grew up like we did, and that's how they decided to get into their career in the movie industry. So I've spoken to stunt performers, directors, editors, just about every behind the scenes person you can imagine. I'm up to like episode 75. I thought I might do 5 or 10, but I'm just loving it. I'm getting to speak to my heroes. I spoke to Ken Ralston and Dennis Muren, and it's wonderful. And like I said before, there seems to be room for all of us to do these things in the Star Wars world, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, podcasting is that gateway into talking to your heroes that you never thought you would talk to. People you would read in Starlog and Bantha Tracks and anywhere. It's like, there's no way I'll ever talk to these people. Oh, they're on the phone. Oh, hello there, Howard Kazanjian. How are you? It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, just watching Return of the Jedi in the theaters and sitting at the credits at the end, we're like, oh, we've talked to that person. And that person, and that, oh, that person's been on our podcast. Oh, we're Facebook friends with that person. It's crazy.
I literally, a tear came to my eye when that happened. Because, I never thought I'd be this close to a Star Wars film.
Yeah. Well, that's what we all love. And that's what we're doing with this project, with the book, really. All of us just want to get closer to that world, whether it's the behind the scenes world or the world of the movie itself. And I think that's what's great about fans, is so many fans have put so many amazing projects together over the years. We keep the fan world buoyant. I mean, obviously, Lucasfilm have their fan relations and they have their publicity, but without the fans, I think, it wouldn't be half as successful. I think we really do put a lot back into that world. And that's the great thing about being a Star Wars fan. There's nothing selfish about it. I'm not sitting here hoarding stuff. I'm putting that love back out into the world, and that's what Justin and I intended to do with the book. And we're so excited just to get our hands on this book. I mean, it's got an intro from Jim Bloom in there, the co-producer of Return of the Jedi, who we spoke with again a couple of nights ago for a podcast for an episode for my podcast. And it just kind of blows us away that we're able to be at a distance and then kind of dip our toe into their world and find out some of the boots on the ground kind of moments from Jim and other people. Yeah, amazing. We're both blown away.
We are really excited about your book because, as you know, we love dates. So tell us what this book is.
Go on, Justin.
I mean, the book is a timeline. Starting from 1976, we begin with Jabba the Hutt, who was a major component of Return of the Jedi. And we kind of talk about, the first inception of Jabba, where he was in Star Wars, but they cut him out. And, Lucas had the idea of, rotoscoping a creature over the actor, which, who knows the real story. But, we kind of start there and we just move forward year by year. And it basically chronicles Return of the Jedi, from inception all the way to the 40th anniversary, and even maybe a little over. There's some stuff coming out later this year that's connected to Return of the Jedi, like, from a certain point of view book comes out, I believe, in August or something. I know they just changed the date, but so everything in between there, and that's a lot. You're going into 80 into 81. You're leaving Empire, and they're ramping up for Jedi, so you're putting dates that, we're pulling from, Rinsler's book and John Peter's making of Return of the Jedi book. Starlog magazines have information to pull from, and just all these different resources in these places, and we just compile them into this really easily digestible timeline where you just see, like, here's the date and here's a brief synopsis of what happened on that date. And some dates there's multiple things going on. Some dates, they're on this stage and they're rehearsing, over here, and then somebody's doing a promo photo shoot, somebody's getting, the contact lenses, fitted and stuff like that. So it just kind of progresses year by year. And I've said this before, but it's almost like, if you look at it as like kind of a waveform, like a graph, you'll see it kind of ramp up for 82, 83, where it's just the most dates, it's just the most robust. You've got pre-production, you've got the release with all the promotional content, and then it kind of tapers off a little bit towards like 86, towards the 90s, and then it ramps up again when you're getting back into the special edition, and then it kind of tapers off as you get into the 2000s, and then it's pretty sparse from like early 2000 up until the 40th anniversary, where it just ramps up again. And it's just really interesting to see the trajectory of the film, and not just the movie, but everything surrounding the movie, and that's, Star Wars has always been a cultural icon. It's not just a movie, it's a way of life, honestly. And it's just, we have all these different aspects of the film, anything related to the film, we would just pull dates for everything, from signed contracts to, like, Stuart Freeborn, to what scenes were shot on what days on what stages, what else, when comics were released, when novels were released, when soundtracks were released or re-released, stuff like that. And it's this compendium of all this information done in a chronological fashion, and we've included things like photos to help tell the story, and then we've got call sheets in there. Jamie and I have produced call sheets from the actual production, and they're verbatim, so they've got like all the little errors and stuff that were in some of them. And it's just, it was a chance to recreate and have a book have those in there, and they've printed them in other places, but I feel like ours is definitely the most robust collection of that kind of paraphernalia when it comes to kind of Star Wars behind the scenes stuff. And then we've got some exclusives. I'll let Jamie kind of extrapolate on that, but we do have some exclusives in there that really give the book this extra kick and really kind of legitimize it in a lot of ways. And it really puts it a step above my Empire book, which I'm really happy about.
The call sheets is what actors and the crew get every single day of shooting on a film, and most actors will throw these away. Most crew people will throw these away because, like, why do I need the call of when I need to be on the set and what's going to be shot? Why do I need that tomorrow? So they'll just toss them. So the fact that you have these in the book, that speaks volumes.
And I was also excited to see that on my first birthday, that is when Alec Guinness was recording his scenes in Return of the Jedi. I was like, oh, look, how cool is that?
This is what I've been saying to Justin. I can't
Yes.
wait for people to open it and go straight to their birthday and find a connection to the movie. And it's great that you've done that.
Yeah.
But to pick up on what Justin was saying, when I contacted him, I said, because I've been putting out some 40th anniversary, 40 years ago today, this was last year, Return of the Jedi, this scene was being filmed and that scene was being filmed. And I thought, hang on, there was this guy, Justin, wasn't there, that made this timeline book on Empire. Maybe we could get together and do a Jedi one. We've only got like a year, but maybe I could, use some of the contacts that I've got, having done the podcast and the filmumentary stuff over the years, and bring in some kind of extra material. So also we have in there some excerpts from my interviews. So like I interviewed Nilo Rodis Jamiro, fortunately, very lucky to be able to do that. He doesn't do many interviews. And, spoke to Tim Rose, of course, about his time with Akbar and Salacious Crumb. And I just thought by adding those extra little bits, it gives a little bit more context, of the emotion. It's not therefore just going to be dates. As valuable as that is, because it's a great asset, that Empire book. We're actually talking about going back to the Empire book and maybe giving it this treatment as well. But one of the other things that I was able to do was, I'm quite friendly with Dave Barkley, the puppeteer on Yoda and Jabba. I went and had breakfast with him in Burbank a few weeks ago. He bought me breakfast, and with him he bought a little diary, a little pocket diary. He said, would this be useful to you guys? And in there is like, January 1982, Jabba the Hutt, blah, 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 blah. We did this, we did that. So wow, Dave, this is amazing. Like, you let us have this? He said, yeah, sure. You know, he's doing a book at the moment as well. He's trying to write his, you know, his biography. And I said that would be amazing. And it's got some great little details, a little sort of, like we said, you know, people with their feet on the ground on the production, little insights that you wouldn't otherwise get. And then John Coppinger, who was one of the Jabba builders and animatronic engineer, another friend of mine now, he said, oh, I've got a diary too. You know, do you want some excerpts from that? So there's little moments in there, like, you know, he says, oh, I always got in early and I would fire up Jabba, and I had to get in early because if you got in late, you had to do the slime on Jabba the Hutt, and nobody wanted that job, you know.
Yeah, John was on our show a couple of weeks ago, and he told us that story. I love that man so much.
Yeah, he's great. And that's the great thing, is just knowing these people and having all these contacts over the years, you know, able to find, you know, call sheets from private collections as well, because these things have made it out into the universe, and to be able to collate them. You know, we are at the point now where, we've got 6 days to go, and I'm still saying, Justin, I've just found this, and we have to stop somewhere, you know, because this book will end up being so thick you won't get it on your shelf. And also we need to finish it. Justin is kind of in charge of that end, and I'm like the little yappy type dog, just, you know, jumping up in his lap saying, I've just found some more,
So Jamie, you're Richard. Justin, you're me. Got
He's
it.
giving me a little treat and saying, look, you can have this, and off you go. But no, honestly, it's been great, because Justin has been so patient and so enthusiastic throughout. And like I said, or Justin said at the start, we didn't really start communicating over this form, over Zoom, until we started doing these podcasts to promote the book. Funnily enough, we've just done it over email and WhatsApp Messenger. And, you know, while he sleeps in the States, I'm awake here in the UK, so I'll find some things and I'll send him some emails. He'll wake up to some emails, and vice versa. So we've sort of been working through a 24-hour period, or whenever we can, between our, you know, let's face it, we have regular jobs and we have families, and, you know, we have other hobbies as well. So we've been sort of crowbarring this in throughout our year, and yeah, it's just going to be exciting to get. We're both raring to get our proof copies in our hands in the next couple of days. And there'll be a few pictures on social media at that point.
Well, those diary entries from John Coppinger or Dave Barclay are my favorite parts of the book, because now you're getting first-hand information for those who are actually there. And that's the information that I trust the most, and to see their notes is fantastic. The part I didn't like about the book was the fact that my birthday was not included whatsoever in any year. So you have a couple more days, so I got to add January 16th, okay?
Hang on, January 16th. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your birthday wasn't the day where Alcina says, from a certain point of view.
No, that's the...
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Richard, we've just found an entry. January 16th was the day that Jabba's slime was made. There you go. That's
You know what? Now I'm validated. That's all I want. And another great thing about the book is that it's not only just about the film, like you were saying, but you also have dates of when the action figures were, when the patents were submitted for the action figures. What?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's just there's so much information out there, and it's just some sources, you know, you wouldn't think. You're just like, I think I came across, you know, every once in a while you'll see somebody do the patent post on Facebook or something where somebody's like, hey, this is the Boba Fett action figure. And right on there is the date of like when it was submitted and when it was filed and when it was, you know, became an actual trademark or a patent. And I was just like, there's a ton of these online. I mean, it's public domain information from the USPTO, and you just collect them all. I just collected a bunch of them and threw them in the book, and it's great because you can see when they filed it, and then you can see when it was approved and sent to Lucasfilm. And, you know, you've got Jabba the Hutt action figures, Salacious Crumb, Bib Fortuna, Boba Fett, you know, like all these action figures, and even the toys like the TIE Interceptor and the shuttle and stuff. So where, you know, we tried to include as much minutia as possible. We really wanted to get deep into anything that was connected to Jedi, and I love the Kenner toys, and you know, some of the dates though, it's like you're not going to get an exact date for like the release of the first wave of Jedi figures. It was like, you know, first quarter of 83, you know, like they released the first 17 new figures or whatever. So you kind of have to play around and and kind of do some detective work and figure out, okay, well, where should we put this and where does it seem the most practical? And then you do the research and, you'll go back. I looked at newspaper articles trying to find information about like, okay, when are people reporting on these new toys or these events or whatever? And it's just, it's like we're the Indiana Jones of Star Wars dates and stuff, because you do kind of have to be a detective and you kind of have to ascertain, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's
there is.
Yeah, as you know, and George Lucas was a history revisionist. I love George Lucas, but it's frustrating because he changed history in a lot of ways, and so you really have to kind of wade through a bunch of information from a bunch of different sources to really get the truth. And I mean, there's a certain amount of fun to that, just kind of diving in and finding out what that truth is. But that's what we did, and we're still doing it, honestly. And it's fun, and because right now we're dealing with this whole Kenny Baker situation, where Kenny Baker was originally Wicket, and then they brought in Warwick Davis to take over for him, and then all of a sudden Kenny Baker became Paplu, and it's just all these nuances. And then Rensler says, well, actually it was Jack Purvis, and then another source says, no, it's Kenny Baker. And so it's like you have all this conflicting information, and you kind of have to distill it down to find out what the truth actually is. And that's what we've tried to do, is just be as accurate as possible.
We want people to use this as a resource, as a research resource. So if you're going to be doing a podcast and you want to talk to so-and-so, you might be able to flick through this book, go to the index. Oh, that was when he was first involved in the movie, for instance. Or that's when the Atari video game was released. And then, it was converted onto Commodore 64 and Spectrum on this date. And, all of that information in there is going to be stuff that we're going to be using as we go further on with our other projects. As I continue to do my podcast and my other things, I'll be reaching up onto my shelf for, our own book and pulling it off the shelf and getting that information. And that's how we want people to understand what it is. It's not a narrative book. In fact, if I can, there's a moment here from Jim Bloom in the introduction. Okay. He says, the contents of this book, although not in narrative form, sparked many great memories for me. The places, the people, the sets, the problems and solutions that went into producing Jedi. It's a timeline peeling away the glamour of the movie to reveal its inner skeleton. And that's what it is, It's not a narrative book, but it is a book that you can flick through. And we've got a cool little thing down the right-hand page that flicks through the years like a little flick book. So you can go through it and go, oh, there's 1979. Oh, that's when that happened. And people can just dip in and out of the book. So what I'm recommending here is that people buy both the color hardback version and a soft cover version as well. So they can keep one in pristine condition and then on the shelf as a collectible, and then one, that they can flick through and get all dog-eared and put their Post-it notes in. That's just me pushing the book, sorry.
So you have a soft cover and a hard cover.
Yeah, we decided to do different versions. I mean, self-publishing is very expensive, as you guys know, and it just got to a point where we're like, okay, if we just do the hardcover, you're talking a book that's going to be over $55, and it's just we didn't want to just have a book at that price tier. We wanted to have options for people, so we decided, let's do a hardcover color. Let's do a soft cover color, and we've even done a soft cover black and white just to kind of give people options, you know what I mean? So if somebody's on a budget and they're like, I can't afford that hardcover, at least they can still buy the soft cover, you know what I mean? So it gives the book available to everybody, and it's expensive.
Oh yeah.
So it just, and we don't want to sit here and only have our book be, exclusive to people who have a lot of extra money to spend. We want everybody to have the book. Obviously we can't just give it away, but we want to make it affordable for people. And so that's why every book has the same content inside. The only difference is the cover and the fact that one of them is black and white, but all the content's the same. So no matter which book you buy, you will get the same content. It's just a matter of, do you want the hardcover collector, awesome edition, or do you want the soft cover flip through dog-eared eventually version, or both?
And we should say that the black and white version has still got a color cover. So
yeah, for
it's
sure.
Still, still looks like the next level up, if you like. But we just wanted to make sure we cater for everyone, because we know there are Star Wars fans with a lot of money in their pocket, and there are Star Wars fans who don't have a lot of money in their pocket. And as I said, we want this out there as a resource for people and something to to enjoy. So it's not genuinely not from a cynical sales point of view, because as you know, self-publishing, you don't really make money on these things. These are passion projects, right? So
yeah. Well, what we learned is that people want the hardcover book.
Yeah,
we ordered like tons of the soft cover. They didn't move. Everyone wanted the hardcover for their own collections. Like, lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. Now, speaking of, though, you guys, one of the big parts of a book is, yes, you've written it, and that's a huge load of work, but then there's the layout and the design and stuff. So how did you split up that workload? What did you guys work on regarding that?
Justin had, the design in his book for the Empire book, which took the text like all the way across the page. And I'm not diagnosed dyslexic, but I think I have something in that arena. I've always suffered with like the words move around on the page a bit for me. And I suggested that maybe we go for a 2-column approach, which I just find a little bit easier to scan. So that's one of the things we implemented. Then we talked about, this way of people being able to flick through the book and see what year they're on without actually looking at the entire page. So we've got that thing down the right-hand margin as well. And then also introducing those diary extracts. I wanted to do something a bit different, that not just make them as plain text, but make them look like they're on a diary page. So I've kind of recreated, if you like, because really their diaries are these tiny little pocket diaries with, little biro scrawling that we could never read probably, and they've transcribed for us. So I added a few photos to that, or we added a few photos to that, and just made it just look a bit more stylized. I think if we had more time, we would maybe get InDesign, Adobe InDesign, and really go deep into design. But we have to remember as well that this is a reference book. It's not it's not a coffee table book in the sense that you're going to be flicking through these amazing schematics and photos. In the case of Jonathan Rinsler's book, we're not here to compete with that. And we had a year to do it in between, like I said, all these little moments that we could find. So we're happy with the design. And I think, we're already talking about, as I said, upgrading the Empire book and maybe even doing a Star Wars book at some point. I've also suggested to Justin recently another idea for a book I've had for a couple of years now. And I think if we were to do that, the design would be more important because the topic is actually related to design. So then I think we would, push things to the next stage.
I mean, we kind of divvied up. I mean, again, the bulk of it was already there from the Empire book. Jamie had the idea to put it in 2 columns, which I think was great because it really does help the book flow better when you're reading it. And then, I had put pictures in the Empire book. My initial thing was just, I didn't want to get sued by Lucasfilm or Disney. So I was just like, I want to keep it pretty bare bones. But when we were doing this, it gave us the opportunity to kind of, up the quality and the value of the book and add these things like the diaries. And, Jamie came in and added a lot creatively to the book, which is great because, you always, as you guys, I'm sure it's like, it's always better to work as a team or work with multiple people because you have all these different ideas flying around, or somebody's like, well, hey, what do you think about this? And it's like, oh, it's a good idea, but what if we do this and then add this to it? And it's really a great creative exercise to have multiple people, at least 2 people. Because when I was on my own, it's just me. It's like I did the book, I did the cover, I did everything, and I'd never done a book before. So I'm just going off of what I'm used to seeing in a book, which is, the page is laid out across the entire page. It's just the way it is. And it's nice to have a fresh voice come in and say, well, why don't you try doing it this way? And then you're just like, oh, game changer. And it completely, changes everything. And then it changes the look of the book, the feel of the book. So, he and I kind of swapped off and on and had, we both had our, we both had our input and it's truly a joint project. And I love what Jamie's brought to the book, and I'm excited to go back and redo the Empire book and add some of those things and make that a better book as well. And yeah, I mean, we've talked about doing for the 50th anniversary a Star Wars book, which may end up being more than 1 volume, who knows, because there's going to be a lot of information for that book. But we've had a lot of fun doing this, you know what I mean? And honestly, we've become really good friends through this, and really good partners in working together. And I anticipate we'll probably do a lot of projects together in the future. But it's just been a great experience, and it's just another testament to how Star Wars can bring people together, and just it's such a positive influence on my life and Jamie's life and your guys' lives as well, obviously, and so many people. So
once you start doing a research project, you just can't stop. They're a lot of
it's
fun
true.
doing it, and I love doing research. And as much as I knew about Star Wars, having been a diehard fan since 1977, there were still some facts like I didn't know about this, I didn't know about that. So when you were doing research on your end, what piece of information came up that you were so excited to learn?
Well, Justin, when we've been asked this question before, Justin has talked about this particular scene in which was deleted from the movie, which he'll go into more detail about. But it was the scene where Luke is building the lightsaber in the cave there. One of the things that I didn't realize, and I'd heard rumors that Mark Hamill had not remembered shooting this, but that's not Mark Hamill in that scene. That's a stand-in from ILM who happens to have the same chin cleft and nose and lips as Mark. And you see the hood is kind of covering his face.
If you look through Rinsler's book, you see there's a man named Randy Johnson who was an assistant cameraman, and he was actually a stand-in for Mark Hamill in certain scenes. They didn't get really specific as to which ones they were, but there's photos from that cave shoot where it was done at ILM, and basically you see Randy Johnson, he's in a sweater, and he's talking to Lucas, and he's talking to Dennis Muren, and he's talking to Mark Wan. And then there's a second picture where you see him actually sitting in the position as they're probably prepping and getting lighting done and everything. But, then there's an interview with Mark Hamill at Celebration. I think it was 7 or 8 or something around that time, where Mark Hamill's like, yeah, I don't remember shooting that scene at all. I would have remembered shooting that. And he talked about, usually sometimes they'll use stand-ins and blah, blah, blah. And so it was just, that's when the detective work comes in, and you just kind of put the pieces together, because it doesn't explicitly state in Rinsler's book that it actually states that Mark Hamill did that shot, but then you kind of piece things together and you realize that Mark Hamill didn't even shoot that scene. And then it makes sense why the hood is draped over his eyes and you can only see his nose and his mouth. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And there's actually a previs shot of that where you can see a face where it's just, animatics and stuff, and it's definitely not Mark Hamill. So it's not a stretch to assume that, okay, then this clearly wasn't Mark Hamill, because I think Mark Hamill would have remembered shooting this scene. And I think there was some funeral pyre shots where this Randy Johnson had stepped in for Luke, and he had the same build, he had a similar face, so it was natural for them to use him for these shots, and it makes sense that they would have done this. And then, again, the scene got cut anyway, so it didn't really matter. But just little things like that. It's just fascinating little facts that you don't really know, especially as a kid. You never have any kind of inclination that these things are going on. And then as you grow up and you start to learn the behind the scenes info, you start to realize little nuances like that. And you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I'm just trying to think. I think the thing for me is what the book does in putting these dates in the order that they are, in chronological order, is it kind of reveals the information that you might already know, but in a different way. So, for instance, like while they were shooting the sandstorm scene, which was the first scene on day one of shooting, which of course also ended up on the cutting room floor, over on stage 3 at Elstree, they were doing Ewok rehearsals at the same time. So, you get a real sense that you might have talked about these two things separately in different books and different media, but just knowing that those two things were going on at exactly the same time is kind of funny. And then, one of the other things that we talked about was putting a map of Elstree Studios in the back of the book. So you can go, oh, look, there's stage whatever where they were shooting the sandstorm. I can't remember which stage it was offhand. And there's, stage 3 where they were doing the Ewoks. Oh, and there's the workshop where they would have stored the props. And you kind of start to put the puzzle together in a way that you haven't done before, I think. It's just something about this format that reveals that. And, I keep sort of relating it to my filmumentaries. We've all seen the behind the scenes clips, but when you start putting them in context with the parts of the movie, and then you join a piece of a German documentary with a French documentary, and you've suddenly got 10 seconds instead of 2 separate chunks of 5, it starts to tell a different story. And, you can watch those documentaries and see your favorite film being made. We're used to all these beats, aren't we? And we know the next line in a movie, we know the next music cue. And if you put something different there, it makes people kind of notice it. And that's something to do with putting things in a different format. So a lot of the things that we've got in there are things that you might go, oh, I already knew that. Oh, but I didn't realize that was the same day that Billy D. Williams did ADR, for instance, or something like that.
Yeah, it gives you a broader sense. I thought of a really, really fun video. Someone could do like a digital walkthrough of Elstree Studios back in 1982. We could walk in stage 3 and see them shooting over this. You walk in the stage over here and you see them, the Ewoks rolling around, and Kenny Baker doing some shoulder rolls, and going over here and you see them doing some costume fittings.
That I think I'm just writing down here, Jamie, remember to learn to work Unreal Engine, the game engine. I could maybe do some maybe I could mock that up. I just become an expert. I want to live in that world, I want to be able to have a first person, not shooter, but first person running around, in Elstree Studios with all those things going on. That would be cool.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
Just give us a little credit for that and we're good.
Sure. Yeah.
That's all yours. One of the things that I found out doing the book was the lawsuit against Lucas for the Ewoks. There was this guy who claimed that he sent a script to George Lucas that included Ewoks, and that George Lucas has stolen the idea from him. And at first, you get these letters of like, Mr. Lucas, it's in your best interest to blah, blah, blah. And, we have the dates for when the letters were sent. When you kind of put it all together and see it and see the timeline of it. And then, they went to court in the 90s. It took that long for everything to process. And, spoiler alert, George Lucas won. But it's just interesting to see things like that, where it's just, it's related to Jedi, but it's outside of the making of the movie. Or
that was really fun. Yeah, the gentleman, and I love this part of the book, a guy named Dean Preston. I got a friend named Dean Preston. It's like, Dean, was that you? If that's you, I'm going to come around your neck. But this guy. Dean Preston lives in New Zealand.
Okay.
And I think the other one lives in Canada.
Yeah,
and
he's
I love
Canadian.
the whole, Lucas, you want to make $1 million and make people happy? Well, we'll get all the Ewoks on a tour bus, and we're going to go around to hospitals, and you're going to make $1 million.
I know, that was his whole thing. Is like, Lucas, we're gonna make a fortune off this, and George is probably like, I've already made a fortune. What are you talking
Sounds like
about?
the Austin Powers movies. $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was able to find a clip of the news at the time from Canadian News, and was it Canadian News? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just we got a few grabs of that in the book. And there's George there with a load of microphones in his face, and there's like the artist's rendering of the courtroom, and the presenter with the word Ewok trial and the scales of justice behind him, and it just adds a little bit more context, fleshes these things out. I think that's a nice fun bit. I think that's what Justin was prompting me to tell you a moment ago, but I dropped the ball.
I think that was it. No, it's fine.
That was a really fun part, because it takes you out of the timeline of the making of the movie, and it shows you what was happening around that. And I recall seeing that back in 83, 84. In fact, if I ever meet this Dean Preston guy, and
so it's just stuff like that really, it makes for a fun read. It's one of those books. It's not a narrative. It's something you'd probably flip through for about an hour and look at all the dates, go check your birthday, go check other people's birthdays, and you have fun with it. It's not like you're gonna. And some people might read it cover to cover, but I feel like it's one of those things where you just kind of read it. You're sitting around thinking about something. Oh yeah, I wonder when this happened, and you would pull it off the shelf and just look it up. And it's a fun book to read through, and it's a fun book to use as a reference guide, which is what we designed it for. It's just it was just so much fun making it, and I just hope people really enjoy it.
yeah, I gotta thank you for sending a proof copy. And as soon as this comes out, I'm going to buy it, because I want to support fans who put all this time and effort into making a book like this for a resource and for reference for other fans. And I love that about the fandom. They're always there to help each other out.
I will say you are the only podcast that got the full book as a proof. Everybody else got sample pages or stuff, but we love you guys, and we wanted you to get the book in all its splendor and glory. So,
well, we can't.
You're special to us.
Well, thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
And you were one of the impetuses for getting Today in Star Wars History just done right. Because I thought, I'll edit it myself. And I thought, no, this guy's already written a book here, Justin. Here, you take it.
That was a lot of work too. You and I worked on, and Sarah, we all worked on that for like a year. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because when you start out, you think, oh, this will be done in like a month or 2, 3 months max, and then you start getting into it, and you're like, oh wow, okay. And then life intercedes, and then you're just like, oh wow. So when it was a year ago, and Jamie's like, do you want to do a book? I'm like, if we don't start now, it's probably not going to happen. So that's why it was just like this really quick, like within 24 hours, I was just like, okay, yes, let's do it. Cause I kind of thought it out in my head, and I was like, okay, if we're going to do it, it has to be now. Now's the moment. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to write a book. You know,
No.
people think like, oh, you just throw some stuff together and it's great. It's like, no, it's very complicated, especially when you're self-publishing because you're doing everything yourself. But that's what makes it fun. And it also gives you the freedom to make your own book. You don't have a publisher over your shoulder going like, why don't you use this picture instead of that picture? Or how about you leave that part out? Or why don't you add this? Because this will sell more books. So it's like you don't have to deal with all that. You're just like, you're a fan. It's for fans, and you're just saying like, this is my interpretation of this information. Please enjoy it. You know what I mean? So,
and you can take it up to 5 days to go before you release it, and still add one last thing.
And the thing with self-publishing is we could actually do that. We could actually update the print file even after it comes out, honestly, which I did on my Empire book because there was a couple mistakes I found, and I updated the print file. Didn't tell anybody. So there are people out there with copies of the Empire book that are unique and different than what you can buy now. So
no, we're going to nail it in one go, Justin. That's
exactly. No updates.
So
You're gonna have everybody's gonna have the same book.
No special editions. Yeah.
not unless we plan it.
Well, we are very, very excited to get this book out there and let fans know about this. So tell us where we can get it, and once again the prices.
Well, you can get it on Amazon in your territory. So I'm over here in the UK, and you'll be able to get it in Europe. You'll be able to get it in the US and Canada and Australia. And the price will differ slightly dependent on the region because there are different structures for the printing that they do in those regions. But as Justin said, the hardback cover is a full color version is going to be in the region of $55. And then you come down to the black and white internal with a color cover paperback version. And what are we looking at on that, Justin, at the moment, on average?
So the black and white, you're looking at about 25, and then the color soft cover is going to be about 30.
Yeah. And if you go to JediTimeline.com at the moment, we set up a little website there with a page where you can register your interest, put your email address in, and you'll get be a part of our mailing list. We can't do pre-orders with a physical Amazon self-publish. You can only do it with ebook, and we're not doing an ebook. We want this to be proper retro in our hands. And we've got my friend Pete who's done the cover for us. He's an artist, and he's made it look kind of like one of those books like The Art of Return of the Jedi, or John Peach's book from back in the day. And it's going to look good on people's shelves, I think. So the 25th, JediTimeline.com, or just go to Amazon and search for Return of the Jedi Unauthorized Timeline, and you'll find it.
Well, we can't wait to add it to our collection, and when we do, we'll take a picture of the book on our shelf. I got a special shelf over there for the Rinsler section of a collection of books. I'll put yours right there so you'll know exactly where it goes, where it should be.
I feel honored.
Yeah.
Very much so. No, seriously, Jonathan Rinsler, I mean, he was huge inspiration for writing my Empire book and for this book. Rest in peace. But he was such a, his book is like the Bible of Star Wars behind the scenes content, which is, it was a go-to for a lot of the stuff we did. And for you to say that, I'm just like very humbled, but just let everybody know you can actually buy the Empire book right now if you want. Ramp up for the Jedi book. It's on Amazon. Just do a search for Empire Strikes Back Unauthorized Timeline book and it'll pop up. And then that's a hardcover. It is black and white. I had somebody leave me a review and they were mad because they got the book and they opened it up and it was all black and white, and I did it because of costs. And they were mad, like there's no full color photos or anything. And I actually had a collector's edition I released for a limited time that was full color, but it was so expensive. It was like $60, I think, that I just didn't feel good about like asking people to pay that much money. So I made it black and white. But I'm tempted to go back now and do kind of a soft cover full color after we get Jedi done, and but we'll deal with that later.
Let's do it.
Right now we're just focused on Jedi because that the deadline's coming up. So that is our focus.
Well, where can our Skywalkers find you both on social media? Justin, let's start with you. Even though you just took a big drink of water.
No. You can find me on Twitter at TESB Timeline. I had actually made that for my timeline book, and then obviously time goes on and you're just stuck with names. But TESB Timeline on Twitter. Instagram, I'm just at HKL Films, like movies. And then on Facebook, you can find me just, Facebook/Justin Berger, Berger. And if I don't know you, I probably won't add you as a friend. You can try, but I'm pretty strict on who I add on there. But if
they're going to buy the book, though, Justin, you add them straight away, right?
Yeah, if you send me a message saying like, "Hey, I'm interested in your book," I'd be like, "Bing, yeah, what's up? How's it going, buddy?" But if you do searches, you'll find there's a Facebook page for the Empire Strikes Back Unauthorized Timeline. There's a group and a page on Facebook. Just search it. But those are my main ones.
Okay, and Jamie.
And Jamie, where can we find you and your podcast?
So if you go to Twitter, I'm at Jamie SWB. SWB stood for Star Wars Begins, which was the name of my Star Wars filmumentary, my feature-length thing, which is still available on Vimeo. So you can find those on Vimeo. You can find me on Twitter on Jamie SWB. You can find me on Instagram, Filmumentaries, on Facebook, Filmumentaries. So it's like documentaries, but with film at the top. Again, it's a kind of a name I got stuck with that I came up with. It doesn't make sense, but it is the only thing that comes up when you try to Google it. So that's an advantage. And yeah, the podcast is there on Google, on Spotify, on Apple, anywhere you can get podcasts. The podcast is there. And I also have a bunch of shorter form documentaries on the Vimeo channel as well. So if you search for Vimeo Filmumentaries, you'll find those as well. There's probably something like a week's worth of content for you to work through if you start from beginning to where I currently am.
Well, thank you guys for coming on the show, and congratulations on this big undertaking, and we can't wait for the Skywalkers to delve into this. It's a really, really fun book, and very, very informative, with a lot of information that you don't really expect. Mm-hmm. Take that, Dean Preston!
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We had a great time.
Yeah, we did. Thank you.
May the Force be with you all.
Always.
And also with you.
Till the Spire.
Well, that wraps up episode 420 of
the Cheech and Chong podcast. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, 420. I get it.
Oh, Sarah knows about Cheech and Chong.
A little bit.
Yes. But this is not the Cheech and Chong podcast. It is Skywalking Through Neverland.
We want to thank Justin Berger and Jamie Benning for joining us. And their book, Return of the Jedi, The Unauthorized Timeline, will be released on June 1st. And we want to thank all of you Skywalkers who like and comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel and just chat with us. We love hearing your opinions.
And all of you Skywalkers in the Sky Chat right now.
Yes.
And once again, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we are still 4 away from the next level.
From 8,700.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, are you interested in our books like everyone in Ontario, California? Well, autographed copies of Today in Star Wars History, Part 1 and Part 2, and Skywalking Through My Fandom, the interactive notebook, well, they are available now at skywalkingthrough.neverland.com/book.
We just put a few more in the mail yesterday. So, yeah, we'd love to go to the mail store again. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Small World Vacations, for their support. Are you thinking of a trip to Disney parks?
Or?
No.
Yeah.
Well, still.
They can still get reservations for the Galactic Starcruiser.
Yes, you can. Well, you can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com, and their vacation planning service is free of charge. So just check it out, and then when you ask for a quote, tell them that Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now, do you want to support Skywalking Through Neverland?
Well, I do.
Oh, great. Well, consider supporting us through the Skywalking Force, which is our Patreon. The Skywalking Force has access to bonus content in the form of our Zoom discussions on the latest Disney Plus shows, The Mandalorian, The Bad Batch, WandaVision, Mighty Ducks. They're all there.
And you also get a coupon code to use on our books. That bonus content begins at only $5 a month. So head to skywalkingforce.com and have a look at the options. And just a huge thank you to those of you who are part of the Skywalking Force. You might have noticed that I'm using a new microphone. Next week, Richard will be using a new microphone as well. And that is thank you to you guys.
Did we sound better? Or actually, does Sarah sound better right now?
On the podcast, they can't hear this microphone right now, but yeah.
I'm asking everyone who's listening later on.
Oh, yes. Do I sound better? Let us know.
Now, we are part of the Skywalking Network.
Skynet.
Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes, which a new episode just came out this week, where we explore the movie adaptation, the Marvel Comics movie adaptations, and these go back to 1974. So if you like our classic Marvel Star Wars comics, it's like that. Even funnier sometimes.
Nice. We also have the Max Effects podcast,
The Neverland Clubhouse,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
Star Warsologies,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and
Today in Star Wars History, which can also be found in the Shorts section.
Mm-hmm.
Go to YouTube, look at the shorts, minute bites of Today in Star Wars History, as well as on Instagram.
Star Wars every day. You can also find us on social media. We are at Skywalking Pod for Twitter and Instagram. You can join our Facebook groups. Just search Facebook for Skywalking Through Neverland, or you can email us, share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com.
And
always remember
to love your Timothy Zahn. And don't call him Steven Zahn.
No. And
Neverland on Alderaan. Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.